You're listening to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast, your source of music news, stories, and 2-hour deep dive interviews with bands that have sold over 150 million albums. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Now let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are joined by a very special guest. He's achieved a level of mastery as the guitarist and keyboard player for the Juno Award-winning and #1 charting band Wintersleep. Oh, and they just happen to be my favorite band in the history of the universe. So welcome to the podcast, Tim Dion. Tim, how are you? And is it true that you weren't available to accept your Juno Award because you were stuck in the beer line?
Yeah, kind of. First of all, I'm doing well. I'm doing great. Me and the family just got back from a quick trip to Montreal for a Montreal Canadiens game. I'm sorry. I think you're probably a Sens fan, but that's okay. It's a good rivalry.
That's okay. Actually, I just had April Weinsinger on, Mark, and he was also a Montreal Canadiens fan. So we had a little bickering back and forth. So I'm getting used to these Montreal fans that keep popping up.
Well, yeah, that's fair. And our band is kind of split between Toronto Maple Leafs fans and Montreal Canadiens fans, so that's always interesting on the road.
I guess for a bunch of boys from the East Coast, Montreal is your closest NHL city, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, yeah, it has to be. Like, other than Boston, but we're not going there.
Hmm.
I think you'd agree. You'd
Yeah, we
also
don't
agree
talk
with that.
about them.
No, but anyway, I'm doing well. But it was like a pretty decent trip. We drove from Fredericton, which is like 8 hours, and then another 8 hours back. So, yep. But to get to your question about the Juno thing, yeah. If you watch the video of us accepting the award, I am not there, but I was there. It was my turn to go get beer. And our our publicist at the time was like, "Yeah, your award's not up for another 4 awards, but they must have changed it." And anyway, I'm in line for beer, like trying to bring you know 5 beers down for everybody, and they had the video and audio going throughout the concession stand, and I was like, "Oh my God. Oh no, this is our category." They hadn't announced our name yet or anything, and I was like, "Oh my God." So I ran over to a security guard and I was like, "Hey, is there any way I can get way down there to where I need to go?" Blah blah blah. He was like, "Dude, there is zero chance that you're gonna make it down there in time." And I was just like, "Okay." So I just finished getting the beers and brought them back, and there was nobody there to collect them. And then I got
I was
shuffled
gonna
off.
say the band would have understood if you just drank all the beers in part celebration and part sadness for missing it.
Yeah, pretty much. But it was a pretty funny moment. My parents didn't exactly think so, but my mom's still upstairs watching our kids right now, so she didn't disown me. I think I did tell her that I was in the bathroom though at the time because this was early days.
A little more respectable.
Yeah.
Did your bandmates say anything? Were they shocked when they look around, they have to get up and you're not there?
Well, yeah. The funny thing is they're all, looking back like, "Where's Tim? Where's Tim?" And you can see as the camera's kind of following them down, they're just looking like Lowell's looking back. He's like, "Oh my God, oh no." Anyway, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to be on the mic because we were all not expecting anything like this. Like nobody had told us beforehand that we were gonna win or anything. It was just like, holy crap, okay.
There was no acceptance speech that was pre-planned.
Oh God, no. But it was still pretty good. I enjoyed it, but I'm glad I didn't have to wing it myself.
You made up for that Juno Award mishap by participating in some Juno Cup hockey games.
And yes, yeah, yeah. So I don't know if everybody knows about this, but there's these charity games called the Juno Cup, and it's basically the musicians against the ex NHLers. And so I've done it three different times now, I guess. And it's always different players, but I actually got to do it in Ottawa, which you would appreciate, I'm sure. I got to play against like Daniel Alfredson. Um, who the heck else was on that team? He was like the definitely like the biggest name, and I was just like, this is crazy because like I was like, this guy was just in the NHL. You know what I mean? And I think that was 2016, I believe we were nominated for the Great Detachment. And yeah, it was pretty wild. In the past, I had done it in Calgary as well. And for some reason, I seem to remember Paul Coffey was there, which I guess kind of makes sense because it's, you know, and but Lanny McDonald was there. I seem like I'm trying to beat him here,
I was
but
gonna say, was he impressed with your mustache?
I didn't have it then. No, that's the problem. I should have had it. Anyway, that specific game, there's this player named Jamie McCowan, and he was after me all game, like just like like, and I was just like, oh god, this guy's like trying to fight me. I think he's trying to like actually get like a charity scrap going here, and because I'm so small and like like these guys are huge, and Jamie's like passes me the puck out front, and I get the puck, and I'm like, why is he passing me the puck? And he's like, take a shot. He's standing behind the net, and I'm like, okay. So I go for it. Goalie saves it super easy. And then it goes back to Jamie. He's like, you want to try that again? And then I kind of come in for this beak, and then he just comes down and like tackles me. There's a great photo that I don't know who took it, but it came up on like some like review of the Juno Cup game, and he's just on top of me, like, and I'm like laughing so hard because I'm just like, this is insane. There's like this NHL dude like on top of me in front of the net, like pretending to like fight me.
Who are some of the other musicians that were playing? Probably Jim Cuddy.
Jim for sure. I think Jim organizes the whole thing, or at least has a big part in making it happen. And he kind of recruits the team, I guess. So Jim, Sam Roberts, an amazing hockey player. Jim's son, Devin,
Devin.
also an amazing hockey player. I think George Canyon was there. Oh, our coaches were well, there was three people there from, well, the three guys from 3 Days Grace, and the coach was the singer. Can't remember his name.
Adam
Um,
Gontier.
yes, and he was just giving a shit the whole time. He was just yelling at us, like it was kind of awesome. And the other two guys were playing. Johnny from Billy Talent was there. He's a good defenseman.
You
Um,
need some of those on your team.
oh God, yes.
Were
Who
your
else?
goalies musicians as well?
I'm trying to remember. I think they switched it, but I'm pretty sure that we got the ex NHL goaltender and they got our goaltender. And I can't remember who our goaltender was, but it was the only way to make it fair.
That makes sense.
They like to keep it close, but there was a time like I remember I was on the ice and they were just like, "Hey, we're not going to give you the puck for the next 5 minutes." And we're just like, "Whatever, like we're going to get it from you. You guys are, a bit older now. Like we can get it from you." Absolutely not. It was like 5 minutes straight of them making the most insane passes and just like there's like, you're not going to get it from us, and we did not get it from 'em.
I wanted to kick this interview off powerfully. So I reached out to someone to get a little bit of help here. So I have some kind words sent in from a platinum selling drummer. This is from Danny Miles from July Talk. And
Oh,
Danny
nice.
says, Tim is the kind of musician I love and look up to. A person of immense talent and mystery. I can't quite fully figure him out, and that is what I find so fascinating about him. So that's from Danny Miles, July Talk.
Amazing. That's so nice. I love all those guys. We're not like super close, but like they're every time we see those guys, it's always like the best hang. And yeah, and I saw Danny recently at we were playing this festival in Miramichi, and he recently had a kid as well, and we were just chatting about that and stuff. So it was kind of nice. It was called the New Maritime Festival in Miramichi. It's this pretty new thing. I think it might be the second or third year now. And they just announced a new lineup, I believe. Anyway, it's super fun. Like I had never been up to Miramichi, New Brunswick before. Super beautiful up there. But yeah, that's the last time I saw Danny.
So we're going to do a full 2 hour deep dive. We're going to cover your life, your career, your discography. There's so much to get to. You have so much going on now with a new single, a new album, an upcoming tour. We're going to get to that. But we're going to get started now all the way at the beginning. Where does this love of music come from? Is there an earliest musical memory that stands out to you?
Let me think about that for 1 second. I remember driving around with my parents, and they really loved Simon and Garfunkel, the greatest hits cassette, which actually I'm pretty sure was either stuck in the tape deck, and like that's all we could get. You could go between radio or tape, and the only tape was Simon and Garfunkel, I'm pretty
I
sure.
feel like that's a lie they told you to be able to only play that cassette.
I am not sure. It might be. Mom's upstairs. We should go.
I mean, that's a master class in harmonies. If you want to learn about harmonies, listen to Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh yeah, there's so many great songs.
When did you go from just a music lover where you're hearing Simon and Garfunkel that your parents are playing to actually becoming a musician, you yourself picking up a guitar or a keyboard?
Oh well, I started with piano lessons. My mom and dad put me in piano lessons when I was fairly young, like I don't know, like 7 or 8 maybe. I took like some conservatory stuff. I didn't get too far with that because I was like, I don't really like playing this. Like I'd rather like play some songs that I that I know or whatever. And then they switched me over to this other piano teacher who was really great. And I can't remember her name. That was kind of more up my alley, but I was starting to, I was getting older, and I was like, I think I was probably 13 or 14, and I was like, Mom, I really kind of want a guitar. I think I don't want to play piano anymore. And she was like, okay. That was probably early on in the year. And then for Christmas, they got me an electric guitar. And like my mom had an acoustic at the house, so she like actually a pretty nice one. It was like a Fender, like a 70s Fender one. And she had, like she was like, here, you can start with this. And then when Christmas came around, I got I think it was a red, it was called a Jaguar, but it was shaped like a Stratocaster, but it was the Jaguar brand, which I don't even. I've been looking online, and I don't even like. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, there's barely any record of it. Anyway, it did the trick, and I got a small little amp, and like I would go down to the basement, and I would play the crap out of that thing, and we had a family friend named Pete that knew how to play guitar, and he came over to the house and showed me how to play, I think Wipeout, maybe. And I think it was something like that. And I was like, this is so cool. And like had like the reverb on, and like I was like, this is what I want to do. Yeah. So I think that's kind of how I got my start. It must have been 14, maybe 15, 14 probably.
And if you invited me over at 16 years old, let's pretend that we were friends back then, what albums would you be playing for me at 16?
Well, definitely Nirvana. Probably the first Pearl Jam album. Tool. That's 16 though. I'm like maybe Caius.
Tool would be Undertow or Onima?
It would be Undertow for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because yeah, I'm 70 or I'm 76. I was born in 79.
93 is Undertow, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it would have been, it might have even been, what was the EP called?
Opiate?
Yeah. I think I might have started with that record, which is weird. But those were the first CDs I ever owned too. Like I think the first CD I ever owned was Nirvana, Incesticide, and Pearl Jam 10. And I might have got those for Christmas with my CD player boombox thing.
Nice. We have a fan question from Evelyn Withrow. Her question is, did you play in any other bands before Wintersleep?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did. Since we're talking about when I was 16 and stuff, myself, my brother, and two of my other friends from our hometown, we started a band called Antler Grease.
Solid name.
It's, yep. Don't know where that came from, but we thought it was funny or interesting or something. Anyway, we basically just played Nirvana covers. Like my brother's like 2.5 years younger than me, and we needed a drummer, so we kind of forced him to play drums. And and he got super into it and like pretty good actually. So yeah, like that was the very first band, and then the next band would have been a band called Carrie, which was myself and Paul from Winter Sleep, Jesse Luke, and Mark Dion, no relation. And that was kind of like we were talking about Tool. It was definitely kind of influenced by Tool, especially in the drumming. He was like huge into like Danny Carey and Neil Peart, and the riffs were like, you know, they were just like there was just so many riffs, and the songs were long, and it was Toolish, but not as long as like the newer Tool stuff, I guess.
You met Paul in high school and you were in the band Carrie together. How did you meet the other members that would become a part of Wintersleep? And where does Contrive come in that time?
Oh yeah, okay. So like I've actually known Paul basically like his whole life. Like I'm maybe a year or two older than Paul, and my mom and his mom are like really good friends. And so like I've known Paul basically since he was a toddler, I guess, basically. But yeah, we really connected and started playing music together right around when he was in, I guess he would have been in grade 9, grade 10, and I was in grade 11, I think. So that's when that would have started. And we had that band. We did two records with that band. The first one was called The Sound of Beauty Breathing. It was pretty raw, like, we didn't have any money to record, but we did it with our friend Jay Lapointe, who plays in this band called North of America from Halifax, kind of like this math rock band that we all really loved. And but he had a tape machine, and we recorded it all on the tape except for the vocals, because then it got transferred to Pro Tools. This was all pretty new at the time. Like this was, I think it was like maybe December of 1999 or like January of 2000 when we recorded this. I actually still have the original tapes upstairs. I found them, and they have like weird, I don't know, like kind of stains on them, but like I think they still work. I'd love to actually hear what's on them.
The other album with Carrie, is it Lights? Is that what it's called?
Yes, that. Yeah, that's what it's
So
called.
I was listening to that the other day, and you can hear like some hints of Wintersleep in there between you and Paul and his voice.
Totally. Like, and that was right around the same time that we would have been getting Winter Sleep together. Like, it actually makes sense. Like it, and we also recorded the first Winter Sleep record with the same guy, James Shaw, who did he did the Carrie record as well. And it was like I'd say within a year of each other that it was recorded.
What's the story behind the band name Wintersleep? I always found that that was an awesome name. I got my Wintersleep shirt. You can't see because of how low
Oh,
it is,
nice.
but this goes all the way back to the second album, I believe, right?
Second album.
From the music video. So this is like a vintage Wintersleep. Where does the name come from?
Carrie has a song. It's the last song on The Sound of Beauty Breathing, and it's called Hibernation. And hibernation, when like kind of loosely translated into German, is like Winterschlafen or something like that. And like if you loosely translate that back to English, it's winter sleep.
That's pretty cool. I did not know that. I thought maybe the Canadian winters, it's so cold we don't like to go outside, so it's almost like you don't leave your place and you're just sleeping during the winter.
I mean, it is kind of that. Like it's like, it came from hibernation. So it's like, yeah, I hope I'm right about that. I'm pretty sure I'm right about
We're
that.
gonna go with that moving forward. It's official. What was the music scene like back then around 2001 when Winter Sleep formed?
It was cool. Like, we had like a bunch of us had this late. So our friend Brian Borchard, he plays with Holy Fuck, and I'm allowed to swear, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You
Um,
you just did. So now you've the
sorry.
floodgates have opened.
Yeah. Beep. But anyway, he had this label called Dependent Records, and I feel like there was like a huge kind of scene around that at that time. And so like there was us, there was a band called Heavy Meadows, there was Holy Fuck, Bill Barber released a record on there. Land of Talk also. There was more for sure. But but anyway, it was cool, and we had this like message board that was like the dependent music board, I think is what it was called. And like, like it was just like people were just getting on the internet, and like, they'd be talking about stuff and slagging somebody off or whatever. But this was like before social media or anything. It was just like an actual like message board. And people would talk about shows and like make plans on there and stuff. It was definitely like a scene. And we would play with bands like, I don't know how familiar you are with like the Halifax scene back then, but like there was a band called the Burdocks who we really loved. And we would play with whenever we could. So many bands. And like Brian's metal band, Burnt Black, was basically the band that kind of brought a lot of us together. Yeah, going back to your question, like about how we all met, like from Winter Sleep, this kind of ties it in, is like through Brian and through the band Burnt Black. I remember when Lowell was still underage. I think he was 16. I somehow snuck him into the Marquee Club so he could go watch Burnt Black, and he grew a beard for it. He could grow a beard at 16. So anyway, it wasn't a problem. Snuck him in, and we've been friends ever since. So
Do you remember the first show you guys ever played as Winter Sleep?
yes, the first show I think we ever played was at Virgil from Heavy Meadows. Heavy Meadows are a really cool band from Halifax. And anyway, I think we played in his living room to like, like it was just like a little like house party slash show. And it was, yeah, it was really surreal. And Judd, our old bass player, he has a mini disc of this show. And we actually played a Caius cover. And I think we only played like 5 tunes. We probably only had 5 tunes. Like, But that I think that was the first show ever at Virgil's place in his living room.
So I have some kind words sent in from someone that remembers that first concert because it's from Wintersleep drummer Lowell Campbell. And Lowell says, when I think of Tim and his special gifts as a musician and his contributions to music, it's a red sky sunset. It's a quiet morning, a roaring storm. Tim has written some of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard. Without saying a word, he pours his empathy and soul into his keys or guitar or just about anything you put in front of him. The universe of textures he creates are a truly singular offering. The feeling he effortlessly puts into his playing and musical voice is just undeniable. It's given anyone that's heard him chills. You can always tell when he's on a track. It's always so exciting to listen to things he writes or comes up with to accompany songs. He's a loyal friend, father, and son, a great laugh and smile, never far from joy when Tim is in the room. That's from Lowell Campbell. Very poetic.
Oh my God, that's so nice, Lowell. Jesus, you're gonna make me cry. Wow. Anyway, that is so nice. Wonderful.
Man, what a drummer that guy is. Let's dive into the Wintersleep discography now. So in 2003, you guys released the debut Wintersleep album. What thoughts, memories, emotions come back to you now when you think about that album that really kickstarted the journey you've been on for the last 20 plus years?
I guess the way that that album kind of started was at Lowell's apartment. He moved to Halifax to go to, can't remember what it was. It was like a technical college taking like, I think graphic design and stuff like that. And he had this apartment with four roommates, but you could be like super loud in there. The place was built like a fortress. I think it was called Fenwick Towers, and it was like a kind of high rise, and like there was never any noise complaints. So we would start jamming in his bedroom, basically. And he had the ability to record on this program called Cool Edit Pro on his little like what are they called desktop computers. We just kind of started throwing down ideas like jamming, and then we would be able to record it. And this was amazing to us. Like the only thing we had ever recorded on before using this Cool Edit Pro program was just four tracks, and it was just a lot more work to try and do that. But like we had endless, well, not endless, but like you could do like more tracks than four on this system, and like so we kind of got into like layering and like, but it was still very basic. Like we kept it bare bones, and we didn't want it to sound like Carrie, or like we wanted it to be like the kind of like quiet, like chill project. Like Lowell be using brushes a lot or like plastics. We really wanted to keep it pretty chill, but then Paul kind of came up with Orca, and we were like, well, we can't just we need to make this heavy. Like so that like I think that song kind of not really changed it, but like kind of made it more like a band. But we were still trying to keep everything like pretty like quiet and chill. That song kind of ramped it up for us, I think.
So in 2003, I went to school in London, Ontario for audio engineering. And the group of friends I made there were all from the East Coast. And they kept talking about this Wintersleep
Oh,
band that had this single Orca that was getting radio play in the East Coast. So that was my introduction to the band. It was all the way back then. And I ended up since then, okay, so in the last 23 years, I ended up seeing you guys in London and in Hamilton and in Toronto and in Ottawa and Montreal. I've seen you guys probably 15, 20 times. So you're the band I've seen the most of any band. And I've owned every album. And I have a funny story I think you'll appreciate. So
sure.
around 2008, I was back in Ottawa and I saw that Wintersleep was playing at Zaphod's downtown. And the show was maybe a week away. And normally Zaphods, there's always two openers and a headliner, and the show ends at 11. Everyone leaves, and then suddenly it's a DJ and a nightclub. So they're able to get twice the capacity every night, which is a good business move. So
Yep.
the show is a week away. I'm going anyways. And I see there's no bands opening, and they always have two. So I reach out to the owner and I say, "Hey, you got to put my band Distant Society on the bill. Like we got to play this show." And he's like, "Sorry,
I
man, there's
remember.
no other bands." I said, "You always have three bands. Like I don't know why this is different." I said, "Listen, I will sell 100 tickets in the next week, and I will show up on the night of the show, and I will bring an envelope stuffed with cash. You got to let us play." He goes, "All right, man, you're on the bill." So we show up a week later, 100 tickets sold, a big envelope of cash. We do the sound check. I meet you guys. You guys are my heroes. And I just tell you, I love you guys. It's such an honor to be on this bill tonight. And then I let you know that my favorite song is Listen, 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 which you guys don't play that often in concert. And then,
Yep.
I'm there loving your set. And then you guys do an encore. And Paul gets up and says, "Hey, we have a song for our new friend Joel." And you guys play Listen, Listen, Listen in the encore. This might have been the greatest night of my entire life. And I thought you would appreciate that story.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, yeah. I do remember that though. I remember that show. But yeah, that place was always a zoo. Remember loading out of that place? Like, oh my God. Like because like the dance crowd would be in immediately after, and you'd be like trying to like carry gear over your head.
You'd have
Like
to dance
dudes,
your
like
way
they gotta
through.
oh yeah, like it was complete madness, but I guess they kind of knew what they were doing. They're like, we got two shows going on tonight. You guys need to get your shit out of here.
They were smart about that.
Sorry, what was the guy's name again?
Eugene?
Uh, Eugene. Yes, yeah, yeah. He was cool though. He was always super nice to us.
Yeah, I still have him on Facebook. I see him at his updates, and he does a lot of
Great.
traveling. And Zaphods, I think they sold Zaphods a few years ago, and I think it reopened as the 27 Club. I think is so
Oh,
it's
okay.
same venue but different name, different owners.
Okay, I've actually seen that name come up in Ottawa listings, and I was like, what is the 27 Club? I haven't heard of it, but yeah, I guess it's the same as Zaphods.
Do you remember the first time hearing Wintersleep's music on the radio? Was it Orca?
Yep. 100%. Q104 in Halifax, for whatever reason, they had an East Coast I don't know if it was like just like a half hour show or something like that, but it was dedicated to like new East Coast music, I think. And I believe it was this guy called JC Douglas. I don't even know if he would work there anymore or not, but anyway, he really liked the song and played it, and then it somehow got added to like light rotation on that radio station, and out of nowhere years later though, like after our second record had come out, like they were like, and then we were trying to get them to play something off the second record, and they were like, no, we're only playing more, which is weird, but I mean, they were like, it's already in the rotation, so.
Yeah,
And
we'll
then
take
we
any
couldn't get.
radio play we can get, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we were just like, it's just great that they're playing it on the radio.
So let's dive into that second album. So in 2005, you released the Untitled album. You can see it on the wall behind me here. So this is my wall of fame. It's my favorite albums from guests I've had on the podcast. So this is from when I had Paul a few years ago on, and I
Yeah,
had Lowell a few years ago on as well. So it's there. And I tell anyone that listens, Wintersleep is my favorite band, and my favorite album of all time is that Untitled album. So to our listeners, if you're not
cool.
familiar, go listen to that album. And the first album I also have in my top 10 albums of all time. So you guys are the only band that occupy two spots in my favorite albums ever. Can you give us a little bit of insight into the writing and recording of that album? When you think about that period of time, what comes to you about the recording? It's definitely more band sounding, more fleshed out. The first one you mentioned, you wanted to keep it a little quieter. Maybe there were constraints because of the equipment you were using to record and the location. So it's the first one's the most acoustic album of them all, and this one you
Yeah,
start to sound like a full band.
yeah, yeah. I agree 100%. And like I think at that point we were just like at that point we had basically decided we weren't going to do Carrie anymore, and we wanted to focus on Wintersleep. So like some heavier riffs started coming down the pipeline for that, right? So I think that's kind of like how it, but we still wanted to keep it somewhat like we wanted to have like the like Insomnia, say. That's still one of my favorite songs to play, even though we never play it. But we should put that back in the set list.
You should put in the
Um,
for the upcoming tour. Can we make requests or?
I think you're allowed. Yeah, why not? Yeah, I'll see if we can at least pop it in Ottawa, because it was still like acoustic. Like there was acoustic guitar, but like it was definitely more like meat and potatoes. Like like Lowell's drumming was just so good on this record, and it was captured beautifully by Lawrence Curry. Like the drums just sound great. Like
Is the song
and
Nerves Normal, Breath Normal the most legendary live song for Wintersleep? And you have Lowell's crazy drums on there?
oh yeah, like that song, like there's gotta be versions of that song that where we played it for like, I don't know, like 12, 13 minutes. Like and like it's just one riff. But, well, there's two, I guess. But like, like that section is just like one riff and then just a bunch of experimentation and like we would just totally let loose and go for it. And like Lowell's kind of conducting things. He'll do something where I'm like, okay, he's gonna go soon, and then I'll be like, I should get down towards my pedal because I got to make this ramp up, and I'll be looking back over my shoulder and like, and then he'll be like, sometimes I'll just be like, no, and because I think he's gonna go, and he'll just be like, no, like just and it's subtle, like it's super subtle. He'll just be like, and then I'm like, okay, cool, bring it back down for a bit, and then yeah, it's really evolved over the years. We're trying to keep it a bit shorter now because we have a lot more albums now. But there's definitely recordings. Like there's a friend and fan of ours named Mark Sloggett that has taped I don't know how many shows, like maybe like 50 shows, and he once gave us all a stack of CDs. He's like, these are all the shows I've taped, and he's been to more since, but there was a version that I found on one of those. I swear to God, it was like almost 15 minutes long. So yeah, that song, it's pretty rare that we don't play it. Like that's usually a staple of the live set. It's either gonna end the set or end the encore kind of vibe. Just because it's a workout.
The album just celebrated its 20-year anniversary. Does it feel like 20 years?
It doesn't really. It's weird. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why, but like it doesn't seem like 20 years. It seems like 10 or maybe 15, but not 20. That seems crazy.
And it was during the touring cycle for that album that you guys ended up opening for Pearl Jam, I believe, in 2005.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How
That
does that come
was
to be? That's wild.
that was a trip. We were actually in New York. I think we were probably playing like CMJ or something like that. It's just like this festival that for up and coming bands and you know established bands as well. It's like South by Southwest, but New York. And we got a call from our manager Louis, and he was like, "Hey, are you guys interested in opening two shows for Pearl Jam and in Newfoundland?" And we were like, yeah. He's like, cool, well, you better start driving now because the shows are in like a couple days. So I believe it was Slater Kinney that they had to drop off those two shows for whatever reason last minute. And I don't know if they were asking around or I don't know. I don't actually know how we ended up on those shows, but we did, and they were incredible, and like we were nervous as hell, but like we just gunned it. Like we drove the whole way from New York to St. John's basically. I don't even know if we stopped in Halifax. I don't, maybe. um we just pulled in, did sound check, and yeah, it was surreal, but they were so nice. Like Eddie Vedder came into our dressing room like the first night and was just like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" He was like chilling, and he was just like, "You guys need anything, let us know," and blah blah blah. Thanks so much for doing this. And we're just like, "This is insane, like absolutely insane."
Was it even crazier because you mentioned that one of the first albums you ever owned was Pearl Jam's 10?
Well, yeah, like it was pretty nuts. And I remember telling my mom that we were going to open for Pearl Jam. She's like, "That band that I bought that CD for you, like when you were like 16." And I'm like, "Yep." And like I had Pearl Jam posters in the basement because like we used to rehearse in my mom's basement, mom and dad's basement, and like we had, I don't know, like Tool posters up, and I'm talking about my first band again there, Antler Grease, but like I think there's still maybe even a Pearl Jam poster up in my parents' basement right now.
With that album, the band's bass player at the time, Judd Haynes, gets nominated for a Juno Award. He also did the design. So this was CD, DVD artwork design of the year. And he's gone on to do a lot of the artwork and design for the album since then in the Wintersleep discography. And I have some kind words sent in from Judd Haynes. And
Okay.
he says, an observation I made pretty early in my friendship with Tim was if there was a guitar in the room, it wouldn't take more than a moment before it was in his hands. It didn't matter what was going on or who else was there. True musicians always find their instrument, and Tim was rarely without his. I heard a cheesy line once. They wouldn't call it talent if everyone had it. Tim is such an incredible talent. He's never lost his love for playing, and I consider myself intensely lucky to have had the opportunity to make music with him, and he's a lot of fun. That's from Judd Haynes, original bass player for Wintersleep.
Awesome. That's so nice, Judd. Um, yeah, I mean, Judd always had a like super awesome collection of like vintage guitars and stuff. So every time I'd ever be over at his house, like I'd be like, "What's that?" And I swear to God, he'd have put it somewhere so I'd notice it and like, let me give that a go. But yeah, he still to this day has a pretty decent collection of guitars and basses, and he got really into the Gibson RD series from the 70s. Like I think like Joel Plaskett used to play those guys. Like he had at least two or three of them, I think. Like I'm sure Joel probably still has those guitars, but yeah, I wonder if that's how Judd got into that or not. But maybe it was because he definitely loved Thrush Hermit.
In 2007, you guys released the album Welcome to the Night Sky. This has two singles, Weighty Ghost and Oblivion. Weighty Ghost is a top 10 single. Oblivion is a top 20 single on the rock charts in Canada. What did it mean to you guys to get that kind of support at radio? And do you consider this album your commercial breakthrough in Canada?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely our commercial breakthrough. I think a lot of people consider that our first album. See, like, I guess that's the year we won the Juno too, and it was for Breakthrough Artist of the Year.
It's kind of funny, right? On your third album, you
Right.
get the New Group of the Year award.
Yeah. I mean, it is, it's strange for sure. It was a big step forward for us. Like, we were getting festival offers, our guarantees were going up. Like it seemed like it was like, oh my God, we might be able to actually get a couple hotel rooms on this tour. Like, like it was like it really like stepped it up for us. I mean, we had already done a couple cross Canada tours, but on that record, like I think we must have done it like three or four times. And we got to go to Europe. We get to go to Japan. A Japanese label picked up Welcome to the Night Sky. I think they were called Imperial Records, but it's not the Imperial Records you're thinking of. It was so cool. Like we show up in Japan and like none of us had ever been anywhere in Asia or anything. We were like, whoa, like this, it was like mega like culture shock. Like we showed up at the hotel and they're like, okay, just put all your instruments here in the lobby, like pile them there. And then they threw a fishnet over it. And they were like, cool, here's your room keys. And we're like, yeah, but what about our gear and our guitars? And they were just like,
Oh, it's protected.
"Are- yeah, they're like, no, they're gonna be fine. It'll be there in the morning. Like, don't worry. Like, blah blah blah. And then our label people were like, people just don't deal here, whatever. I was like, okay. We spent I think, the entire time in Tokyo. We played two like full like rock shows. We did one stripped down set at this like I think it was like a Rolling Stone Japan like party or something. We did an interview with Rolling Stone Japan and like all kinds of weird press over there. And it felt insane. Like we were busy the whole time. Like I was like, this is going really well. And then, a couple months later, we're talking to the label and they were like, oh yeah, like you guys sold like I can't remember what it was, like 4 or 5 thousand records. And I was like, holy crap, that's great. And they were like, this is not good. And they didn't pick up the next record, but they're sweet people.
This episode has been brought to you by the Women in the Music Industry podcast. It's hosted by music producer Rob Wells, who has worked with global superstars like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, and Selena Gomez. Through his 1-hour interviews, he shines a spotlight on the remarkable women who are breaking barriers and making their mark in the music industry. Some of his notable guests include Morgan Lander of the multi-million selling metal band Kitty, and Pam Shane, who co-wrote Genie in a Bottle for Christina Aguilera. If you're a fan of the Joel Martin Mastery podcast, you'll love the Women in the Music Industry podcast, which is available on all platforms. Weighty Ghost is still to this day the band's most popular song on Spotify. It has 12 million plays. Why do you think people love that song so much?
I don't really know, but we had been playing it live before recording it, and it sounded different. But like, I mean, it was the same, like the same lyrics, same, but a completely different like treatment to it. Like it was more upbeat. It was like there was like shots and like it wasn't like the way it is that everybody knows it now. It was, yeah, definitely more like kind of poppy, but we knew that people were into it because like whenever we'd play it live or like even before even recording it, like people were asking to hear Weighty Ghost at shows, like especially in Halifax or whatever. Yeah, it was surprising to me because I felt like that was like the kind of like the outlier. And still, I guess, like to this day, I feel like it is the outlier on the record, but it was, and I was like, I don't know, like maybe do we need to put this on the record? And I'm like, we definitely need to put this on the record, but I'm like, does it fit? I remember humming and hawing about it, and everybody was like, it's going on the record, and I was like, yeah.
I remember actually hearing the song for the first time. So as a fan of the first two albums, when I heard the song Weighty Ghost as a single, to me that sounded nothing like the first two albums. I was like, that's so different for Wintersleep. But then
Hmm.
once you take that album and all the albums since then, Weighty Ghost to me fits in the full discography, but it was very different from the first two albums.
Agreed. It's more like poppy. It's like in the grand scope of things, it does make sense, like Nat. But at the time, it was, it's kind of like foreshadowing in a way. Like, so that's a cool observation.
There's a lot of cool things that happened around this album. We mentioned you guys won the Juno Award for New Group of the Year. This is where you opened for Paul McCartney in Halifax. The song Weighty Ghost was included in National Post lists of the top 100 Canadian singles of all time. And you guys perform Weighty Ghost on The Late Show with David Letterman. For that Late Show with David Letterman, how different is it to play on a TV show like that versus playing the song at a concert?
Oh my God, that was the weirdest experience.
What was
Um,
weird about it?
okay, so first of all, when we go in, like they wouldn't let us use any of our own instruments. It was something to do with the union. We also weren't allowed to touch any of our gear until it was in place before we were playing. So like I was kind of freaking out. I was playing this guitar. I didn't know I didn't have my normal pedals. Even the pedals had to be rented for whatever reason. And like I don't know if it was just because like we didn't know what we were doing, or maybe normally the bands would have way more crew who would be doing this, who are unionized. I don't know. But we had our tour manager Donnie, and that was it. And he was also helping out in the mixing booth, so like they allowed him to go in and like make sure it was sounding like us, and yeah, it was a very weird experience. That like sound wise, it just sounded. I didn't really know what it was going to sound like. Ended up sounding good, but like I was just like, this is so crazy, and it's just like, go, you guys are on now, and like blah blah blah. Anyway, so there was all this stuff that happened. Like I got trapped in this
In the
area
beer
where I
line.
guess I was probably in the beer line. No, there was no beer line. I got trapped. Like I was trying to set one of my pedals, and like they were like, "No, your time's up." Blah blah blah. Anyway, I get trapped in this like thing, and I'm like, I can't find the door to get back to the backstage, and it's completely dark now. And I'm like kind of standing there. I see a security guy, and then I look up, and it's David Letterman. He's like, "You're not supposed to be here." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm definitely not supposed to be here." He's like, "I'm just kidding, but you're not supposed to be here." And I'm like, "I know, I'm looking for the door." And he was like, "Over this way, bud."
Was there an audience while you performed, or is it just an empty room with David Letterman?
There was an audience. There was an audience, but the stage is really small. Like it's like you're kind of jammed in there, and like he's just right over there. It's not that big of a stage. It's not as big as you'd think. That was wild. And then this doesn't really have to do with it, but it kind of does. I remember after David Letterman thing got wrapped, trying to find parking for a van and trailer in Manhattan. I think it took me and Donnie like 3 hours. Like we finally met back up with the guys like 3 hours later, and they're just partying. And we're just like, but we caught up.
In 2010, you guys released the next album, New Inheritors. This goes to number 12 on the charts in Canada. There's four singles, including Black Camera, which is a top 15 hit on alternative radio in Canada. Did you feel pressure with this album to follow up the success of the last album?
I think so. I do think so, a little bit. It wasn't really specific pressure from the label, it was more just from us, I think. But I also feel like we were slightly like rushed into it. Like I don't feel like we had enough time because we had toured so heavily for Welcome to the Night Sky. I feel like we kind of like forced it a little bit. Like we had a lot of songs going in. I still love that record. It did feel a little bit rushed at the time. I'm sure everybody would say that. We had this rehearsal space in Montreal. I think we had moved to Montreal at that point. I think it might have been like Brad Barr. Do you know the Barr Brothers? The band, the Barr Brothers? Really cool band. Anyway, Brad had this space, and we were renting it. We had it for like a month, and we'd be in there like most days, like working on tunes. And for some reason, it felt a little rushed to me, just from pre-production, like right into the studio. And and Tony had flown over from Scotland, Tony Dugan, and we just kind of got right into it. Like it just felt slightly rushed and less relaxed than other recordings for some reason.
The album is fleshed out with strings and horns. How do those come into play with this album?
Well, it was really cool. It was an idea that Tony had, and he was like, "What would you think about putting, some strings on this?" My friend Mick Cook from Bell and Sebastian is like good at arranging this stuff, and he also played trumpet on the song "New Inheritors." But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Mick, right? Yeah, it was Mick. I'm pretty sure that did all the string arrangements, and it was just really cool. Like we were there in Glasgow when the strings were being recorded, and I wish I would have had like a good like cell phone that I would have been able to like record it through the window because it sounded so cool. Like just hearing that, like it was just like, whoa, this is crazy. It's like an actual like string quartet in there. It was really neat. It was mostly just strings and horns, I think, that were on it, but I really do love that, like the string intro on Experience the Jewel.
There's lots of great songs on that album. We have some kind words sent in from John Harvey, bass and vocals for Monster Truck. And John
Johnny.
Harvey says, Tim is a sonic landscape artist. Textures and colors that blend beautifully together in harmony with the intensity around them. Wintersleep changed the sound of the East Coast. I also know he's an amazing dude, father, and a great friend. Tell Tim I say hi. That's John Harvey, Monster Truck.
Oh, that's so nice. Love Johnny. And actually recently got to see him. I hadn't seen him in a long time. We were in Hamburg in Germany one night we were playing and they had a night off and they were on tour with Nickelback and like playing like huge like stadiums in Germany and stuff. And John was like, "You guys are in town. I'm coming to the show." Like blah blah blah. After the show, he's like, "Hey, I think Chad's and a couple of the guys might come down for some beers if you guys are up for saying hi or whatever." I was like, "Yeah, sure. Never met them." Blah blah blah. Anyway, we had a bit of a night with them. Went, you know, around a couple different places. He was like played some pool. It was great. It was a super fun night. And that was the last time I had seen John. And then I saw him recently when my other band Contrived was in Hamilton. And we played at Mills Hardware and he came out to the show there. And we got to have a good hang that night too.
In 2012, you guys release Hello Hum. The album, it's a top 20 album, two singles. In Came the Flood went to number 7 on the alternative rock charts. So I went and I listened to the entire Wintersleep discography again to prepare for this. And on that album, Permanent Sigh and Saving Song are my two favorite songs. And
Cool.
Wintersleep has a lot of songs in the discography that are in different time signatures, like Permanent Sigh. Is it a challenge to play songs in different time signatures, or is it all the same to you? Like when you're on stage, do you have to really think, you have to pay attention or else you're gonna go out of time?
There are certain songs for sure that are tougher than others, and Permanent Sigh is definitely one of the hardest songs to pull off live for us. We've done it a couple times, but it's like if we're gonna do it, we need to rehearse big time because it's like the way that it morphs and like so we did this record with Dave Fridman was producing it and Tony Dugan was um sorry. Maybe yeah, no, sorry. Dave mixed it and Tony produced it, I believe is what happened. And but anyway, Dave's mixing is so amazing on this record. He took like that song, like he basically, in the middle where it kind of like starts doing like it starts to meld into like the end section. He made that fit together so seamlessly. Like we were like, whoa, what did we play that? Like this is crazy. He's like, yeah, I just put this on there, and like, and he would kick us out of the room when he was mixing. He'd be like, you guys like go outside and like play badminton or go into town and get some wings at BJ's or whatever, and like come back in a couple hours, and then I'll have something to play for you. He didn't like us being in the room while he was doing it. I kind of I loved that about him because he wanted to like present us with like an almost like complete in his mind mix unless we hated it, and then he'd just start over. But like we never hated it. It was always amazing.
He's like the Wizard of Oz, doesn't want to show you behind the curtain. He's like a sonic scientist back there, just working his
Like
wizardry.
exactly, like he'd allow it, but he'd be like, he's like, I mix really quiet. And it's weird because he does. Like, the couple times that I was actually in there, like he's got like the near field speakers, and like if you were sitting on the couch, you'd barely even be able to hear what was going on. And like he'd use that, and but then when he'd play you the mix, he had these gigantic speakers. Like I don't even know what they are, but they sound amazing. And he would juice it. And then he'd leave the room, and then he'd come back and he'd be like, "What do you guys think?" And we're just like, "Awesome. Great job. No notes."
In 2015, you guys signed with Dynalone Records, which is one of Canada's great independent labels, home of City and Color, Alexa on Fire,
Hmm.
Bedouin Soundclash, Arkells back in the day. There's so many great artists. I think the Headstones, I think, have signed with them recently. And you guys have released two albums with them so far, starting with 2016's The Great Detachment. Man, this is a great album. There's three singles, including America and Spirit. America goes to number one on the alternative charts and number one on the rock charts. And I remember hearing that it set a record. It was, I think, 11 consecutive weeks at number one. And this is your biggest hit single at radio since Weighty Ghost. Was it extra special for this song to come this deep into your career since tasting that with Weighty Ghost back in the day?
Yeah. I mean, it was amazing. It was such a surprise, really. That song, like the way that we recorded that song was very experimental in a way. Like it was like we lined up, we did it all live, like the music all live. And so we had like a wall of amps and drums, and there was room mics on everywhere. Like it was just like a wall of sound. And like we are just trying it, and like I knew the song was strong and like had a good chorus, and like, but I never ever thought it would be on the radio just because of the way we had recorded it. The thing is, with that song, I think we mixed it with like three different people, and then ended up piecing it together with like two different, I can't remember. There was like multiple parts of the mix that came together from different mixers, and like everyone kind of worked together, and it like happened. And then when we brought it to like our radio team that was going to be like, like shopping the record or whatever, that one came up, and I was like, no, there's no way that like this is gonna go. And I remember our manager was like, no, that's not the single. Like Freak Out's the single for sure. And it was definitely strange, but like seeing like it grew slowly, right? Like it was like, oh, it's picking up some steam, it's picking up some steam. And then the next thing you know, like it was just like, oh shit. And then it was at number one for a long time. I remember like getting radio reports from Tyso, and he'd just be like, that's our radio guy, and he would just be like, boys, we're holding on another week.
Was that the power of, yes, you guys had a great song, but was it also the power of Dynalone doing a great job? Did they have a team that really helped to push it?
For sure. Oh, for sure. Like those guys are incredible. Like, I can't say enough good things about Dynamo. Like, because before that we were always on, I think Welcome to the Night Sky was like sort of on a major label, and right up until Hello Hum, I think is when I can't remember all the details of this, but like EMI like must have got absorbed by another company or something, and then Hello Hum, I feel like it got lost in the shuffle and wasn't promoted properly. And this was our first record that had been like, like gotten a good push, and it was from the fine folks at Dynalone. Like they crushed it.
Joel Carriere at Dynalone was a hero of mine growing up. Just seeing another
Yeah.
young music lover that was doing amazing things as an entrepreneur. And I
Hmm.
actually, so I worked at, I was at Warner Music in publishing for a bit as an intern, and then I worked for 7 years at Metalworks, the recording studio, the production company, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I actually applied and got interviewed for a marketing job with Dynalone. I didn't get the job, but I just wanted to be close to Joel Carriere to absorb the greatness through osmosis.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. He's definitely he has done a great job building this from the ground up. So it's pretty sweet to see.
Spirit was also a top five song on the rock charts. I feel like there's actually a few more songs that had the potential to be hits. Like there's lots of great songs
Hmm.
on this album. Is the song Shadowless one of the all-time underappreciated Wintersleep songs?
I don't think so, because when we actually play it live, I feel like it gets a great reaction, and it's one of my favorite songs to play live because I'm on keys for it. And there's this one part where like I'm mostly just playing like a kind of like Wurlitzer sound, and then when it really kicks in there at the end, I switch to like this like string like mellotron-y kind of sound. And I feel like live it really kind of like pushes it, like, and it's just such a fun song to play. And like John's harmonies are so good when we play it live. Like that's a crazy song though, because like that song actually had three different bass players contribute to it. So there's Mike Bigelow that played bass with us, like basically right up until the end of that record. And then there was like we just couldn't figure it out for this one part. And Tony called in Dominic from Mogwai. Do you know Mogwai, the band Mogwai? So Dominic laid down this crazy awesome bass part, and then our friend Anna Ruddick, who plays with a million different people in the Toronto scene, added another part, and then there's a blend of all three at some point, which is kind of crazy. So the recording is really neat too.
I'm happy to know that I'm not the only one that loves that song.
Oh, it's one of my favorite. It's honestly one of my favorite ones to play live.
Can you think of any songs in the Winter Sleep discography that are underappreciated? When you have such a big discography and there's so many songs, some are gonna get kind of lost in the shuffle.
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely some. I feel like Zones, like from Hello Hum, Zones of Alienation. It might be just called Zones. I'm not sure. But that song, I love playing that one live. We do it every once in a while, but it doesn't ever seem to get the like. I feel like everyone should be like, "Let's go," and it just made me get lost in the shuffle. I don't know.
We're talking about all these bass players. There's another famous bass player that makes an appearance on this album on the song Territory. Can you share with our listeners how this bass player ends up playing on this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't fully even still know the full story, but we were doing the record and we couldn't get the bass right. It's a very technical song, and like there's a lot involved. For whatever reason, we weren't super happy with the bass, and we just couldn't figure it out. Like we couldn't, like we're like, what? How are we gonna make this better? Like, is it like something needs to happen with the bass, and like we can't do it. Like we're all trying. Like we all tried multiple takes. Like our manager Louis at the time, he also was working with the Trailer Park Boys, like in their like live capacity of the shows that they were putting on or whatever. And they knew like Alex Lifeson and like the Rush people through that. Anyway, he just threw out a Hail Mary, basically sent the song to Getty, I believe. And he just agreed to do it. And like I don't remember how long it was, like 3 weeks later, he was like, I'm on vacation in wherever, and I'll be back home and like I can try something in my home studio and blah blah blah. We finally get this track with this huge email. Like he's like, he's talking about how much he really loved doing this. He loves the song. He's like, you guys told me to take as many liberties as I wanted, and I really kind of went for it. So let me know if there's anything that you'd like me to like fix or focus on, and blah blah blah. And like, here's my sonic formula. He's like, I sent you 3 tracks because this is the way I record my bass, and it was like super cool. I'm probably not even allowed to disclose this information,
An
but
NDA was signed.
there was no NDA. There was no. He was just super nice and like super. He really loved the song, so it was pretty cool. But the first bass line that he sent was like full Geddy Lee. Like we had to kind of ask him to tone it down a slight little bit because it was just like it didn't really sound like Wintersleep anymore. And he was like, I get it. He just was like,
Getty, we know you're the one of the greatest bass players of all time.
yeah,
We gotta take
and
it down to our level here.
it's actually incredible. Like it's wild. Like it's so cool, but like it just didn't. We just had to ask him if he could take her down a notch, and he was so cool about doing that. It was so stressful asking, being like, "Hey," but no, he's like so sweet and was like, yeah, it was really really neat. Paul and Lowell got to meet him too.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, I was away, but I think they were playing in Montreal, and Paul and Lowell got to meet them. Went to the show.
That's awesome. I saw them on their last tour, and I read his book not too long ago, which was really good.
The bass book?
There's a bass book, but then he has a biography, like My FN Life or something.
Oh, oh, I haven't read that yet. I'd love to read that.
It's very good. And I have a story sent in. This is during the touring behind this album. So 2017. So this story comes from Joe Rancourt, and this will make sense in a second. So Joe says,
I already.
you know, okay, he says Tim Dion is a legend. Wintersleep played our house at the end of December 2017, which was the night before they played Lee's Palace. I was actually at that Lee's Palace show. He says they showed up and were so amazingly gracious. All just great guys. It was probably the loudest show we've ever had, mainly because they brought all the same gear as they would be using for Lee's Palace the next night. Tim played a twin amp, which made everyone play just a little louder. It was glorious. I've seen these guys play a tight 90-minute set, but that night they played for 2 hours and 20 minutes straight. No break, no desire to cut it short. Truly one of the best experiences we've had at the House Concert Series. So that's from Joe Rancourt, who lives around here in the Ottawa area.
Yeah, yeah, the Rainmaker. We didn't know what we were doing. We pulled up into this neighborhood and we were like, "Is going on? Like this is the address." And then Joe comes out and he's like, "Hey guys, blah blah blah." And he like was showing us around, and I remember he had these 2 brand new kittens, and they were just like ripping around, and I was like playing with these kittens, and there was just like so many like just super nice people around, and I was like, how do you do this? And like he's like, well, like I just built this kind of thing in the basement and started doing like smaller shows and like, like this crowd of people just will allow me to curate this series or whatever. And it's pretty cool. Like it's in like Stittsville. Is it Stittsville?
Yeah, just outside of Ottawa and Canada, and it's around the Ottawa Senators Arena. So I live in that area.
Okay, cool. Yeah, what a great little thing he's got going on there. Like he's still got stuff going on. I saw something recently on Facebook. But yeah,
In 2019, you guys released the album In the Land of. There's four more singles, including Surrender and Beneficiary. What is your favorite part of the recording process? Is it the writing or the practicing and preparation to record? Is it the recording? Is it promoting the album? Is it touring behind it? Do you have a favorite? Do you love it all equally?
I'm probably the exception to the rule where I do love it all equally, but there's just something about like because of the technology now, like we can get demos sounding insanely good. Like Lowell is he basically like he does have his own recording studio now. Like it's like full on. Like but even like early on, like we were always able to like work out like ideas and like we could spend months working on demos and stuff before we actually go into record. And that's what's happened the last couple of records for sure. And a lot of the time, even Great Detachment days, like we would bring in stems of stuff that we would work on and demo ourselves and just bring them in and then work off of that and do the actual recording using some of these stems, a song like Metropolis or something like that. That would be one of them. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
Have you ever had a demo that sounded so good that you ended up just going with that for the final album?
Not for an album, but oh yes, we did for Fool for a Life. That was all recorded by Lowell
Was that one of the two
and Paul.
record store day singles? Was that Fool for a Life?
No, that was just online. We just released it as a single. It doesn't have a physical release.
Okay, that was a few years ago.
Yeah, it was our last song before I Got a Feeling came out. So,
When you look back at the entire Wintersleep discography, do you have any favorite guitar riffs in there or any favorite keyboard parts that you play?
this is probably cheating because it's one of my riffs, but Surrender. It's a really tricky song to play, and it's like kind of like it's a waltz, I guess, but it has like so many chords. But yeah, Surrender is definitely one of my favorite ones to play, and it's probably one of the trickier ones to play too. But yeah, if we're talking about tricky,
Doesn't have to be tricky, just favorite.
oh, well, there's that. I love playing Danse Macabre. You know what? I love playing Astronaut. It's simple, but it's just super fun to play. What else? For keys, I've already talked about it. I love playing Shadowless. I don't want to foreshadow too much, but there's a couple on the new record that I like. I played quite a bit of keys on the new record, so there'll be a couple more that I can add to this list next time.
Let's talk about that new album. So 2026, you guys are releasing the album Wishing Moon on March 27th. The first single is already out. I got a feeling it's already reached number 11 on the CBC top 20 charts, which is amazing. Is there anything that you can share with our listeners about this upcoming album? So they're going to get to hear it in a few months, but what can they expect from this album?
We recorded it out in the desert in Pioneer Town in California with our producer Nick. Well, he hates Nick. It's like if I call you Joel. He's French, so it's Nicolas Verne.
Nicolas.
Nicolas Verne. He has this beautiful place out in Pioneer Town, and it's like a small, basically like mixing studio, but we turned his house basically his living room into the live room. Yeah, so it was a vibe. Like, like we're in the desert, we're in the middle of like nowhere, basically. Like, and it's just like, scorching hot. It's just beautiful though. It's like such a beautiful setting. And we had all these songs, a lot of them demoed up pretty good. And but he put us through the ringer, and like we definitely really worked on the songs for the first couple days, and like, like trying to figure out if there's like better chords that we could be using, or but for the most part he was just like, you guys have already done all the pre-production work on this. Let's just get a vibe, and like let's try and, make it feel like you guys playing in a room. And so we ended up not using a click track for the first time probably since the 2005 album. No, I think that might be the only time we haven't really done that in a long time. Anyway, so it's kind of cool because you can kind of feel the push and pull, even though it's very slight. Like Lowell's a friggin' metronome as it is, but like there's little parts that you can feel like ramp up, and like it kind of feels a bit more alive, I think, than some of our previous records. So there's that. It's very, it kind of goes, it's moody. It kind of moves. I don't know. It's got an ocean vibe to it in a way, like a tide. Yeah, it's kind of like a tide.
The first single, I Got a Feeling, came out not too long ago. How has the reception been so far from fans or from critics? From radio, it's already getting play, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised for sure. Everyone, I haven't heard anything bad about it. Like I'm pretty sure everything's been very positive. Like everyone's just pumped. They're like, "Oh, I'm so glad you guys have new music coming out." And it's been a long time since the last record, so we've been through a full pandemic and God knows what else.
So it had been 7 years since the last album. That's the biggest gap in between any Wintersleep albums. Was it the pandemic had a lot to do with that or other factors?
It certainly did, and like like I had some kids. It takes up a
That'll do
lot of
it.
time. There's a lot of things that have gone on, but like it's just circumstance. I was also living out west for a while, like during the pandemic, and it's just been since I moved back to the East Coast, it's a lot easier for sure just to get together and like, actually be in the same room, which is nice. I mean, you can do stuff online, and we have like continuously, like we have so many tunes that we haven't even touched yet. Like it's like we have a stockpile, but I think this collection of songs is gonna have a little something for everybody for sure.
We have some kind words sent in from Seamus Curry of the multi-platinum band The Sheepdogs. And Seamus says, Tim is a beauty. I hope the legend of Old Salty is alive and well. I don't know what that is, but that's what Seamus says.
That made me almost spit out my beer. But yeah, Old Salty, yeah. I kind of got this nickname from Graham Walsh and Julie Fader. Their daughter Frances gave me that nickname some night at their house. She called me Captain Salty, and it just kind of stuck. But I think it must have. I didn't even know that Seamus would know that, but I
It's a
guess he
stuff of
does.
legends.
That's awesome. But yeah, with Seamus, we recorded a record. Me and Lowell and Seamus and Graham and Anna Ruddick worked on this record for Kate Boothman. Yeah, I think Graham was producing it. Anyway, we put together a live band, and Seamus was in the live band, and we did a couple shows together. It was really fun. We opened for Blue Rodeo at Kita Bala, which was pretty awesome. got to go on stage and sing Lost together with everybody, which was amazing.
You guys have announced an upcoming tour for 2026. So it's the Wishing Moon Tour from April to June. If our listeners go right now and buy a ticket for this upcoming tour, what can they expect from a Wintersleep concert if they've never seen the band live?
It's a rock and roll show. It's you're gonna get a good smattering of the hits and a good smattering of the old guys, but it's a rock and roll show. It's a band that's been playing together for, 25-ish years. Like I think I think you can feel the vibe. Just buy the ticket. It'll be worth it.
Just let the concert speak for itself. Will we be hearing some of the new tunes?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's so hard to pick a set list now because like unless we want to like pull a Bruce Springsteen and play for like 4 hours, but I don't know if we could. He's in better shape than I am. I can imagine we're gonna try and do as many new ones as possible within reason. So yeah,
By some weird twist of fate, by some strange case of serendipity, the final show on the entire tour, June 20th, is here in Ottawa. So are we going
that
to
is true.
have a tour wrap up celebration party at the show? I mean, you guys have been, you'll have been on the road and putting in work for months. I mean, we got to celebrate making it all the way through.
That's fair. Maybe, yeah, I think we probably should have like. Do you think we should just play for like 3 hours or
You should do your Bruce Springsteen impression at that show. Yeah.
just play every song that we played on the whole tour
The
in one
entire
night?
discography chronologically from the
And be
start
like,
until now.
I'm sorry, Scallon.
You've had a lengthy career in the music industry. What's your secret to longevity and how do you keep things fun? You look like you're having as much fun as ever.
I don't know. I think we all just like we just love what we do so much and then we just care about it so much and we want to make the best product and like I won't even send stuff to the other guys unless I think it's like it has to be to a certain standard before I even do that. Like, like it's but at the same time sometimes I'll just be like, "Hey, I just came up with this," and have a recording on my iPhone and then like Paul will like send back a vocal or something, or Lowell will be like, check out this beat I put on this. I'm like, I didn't even. It's just like an acoustic guitar on my phone. He's like, yeah, but I got this idea, and we're always just like feeding off of each other. So I think that's part of it for sure.
So I have a hypothetical question. Let's say it's 100 years from now, and most of today's music has disappeared. Yet there's still one Winter Sleep song that is getting played by the human race. What song do you choose to represent Winter Sleep? It doesn't have to be a big hit, just what you think kind of captures the essence of the band.
Maybe laser beams or dead letter in the infinite. Yes,
These are both from the same album, right?
that's true. Weird.
There's some, but that is one of the great albums in the discography.
Yeah, I think I'll stick with those two.
You guys have accomplished so much. You have the Juno Award, there's the singles, there's songs that have been placed in commercials and movies and TV shows. Do you have any dreams that you are still working towards that you haven't attained yet? Or are you a man fulfilled and it's all just gravy moving forward?
I think we all are like, hey, like we've never been to Australia. We never played in Australia. We never really took off in the States. Like let's go for it. Like we're still go-getters on that front, I believe.
When you look back on your life and career, what are you most proud of?
I mean, it's pretty impressive that we've been a band for this long and it's not like we're like the tragically hip. We're still like driving ourselves around and well, most of the time and I find that's pretty impressive for a group of old dudes.
The longevity is impressive. Now, when you look back at your life and career, what are you most grateful for?
I mean, like kind of just everything. I don't think I can pick anything.
You're just grateful for the whole career.
The whole thing.
If you could sit down next to your 10-year-old self and you could whisper words of advice, taking everything you've learned since 10 years old, the lessons and experiences and mentorships, the ups and downs, the dreams that you've achieved, the failures, everything. If you're looking at cute little Tim sitting there, what do you say to him to help guide him through this human experience?
I don't know. Like, just roll with the punches. I feel like that's something that maybe we've all kind of done very well, and probably is why we've been a band for so long, is our ability to just kind of roll with the punches and be like, oh, Pearl Jam needs you to be in Newfoundland, but you're in New York. You're just gonna have to drive straight and take turns. Like, like, and it's like, that's not really a punch though. Like we were happy to do it. We were like, let's just get there and make it happen. But like, yeah, I mean, I think that might be some good advice for a little 10-year-old. Just roll with the punches.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the fans that have supported you guys since 2001?
Yeah, I mean, well, just thanks so much for the support. And it seems like you're all still around, and I hope y'all dig the new record.
So, as we wrap up, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you for your lifelong pursuit of mastery as a guitarist, as a keyboard player, as a songwriter. I want to commend you for having a big vision for your life, for setting goals, for working towards them. You've shown the rest of us what's truly possible if we apply ourselves and we go after our dreams as well. I want to thank you for putting out great music that's become the soundtrack to the lives of millions of people around the world. I've mentioned you're my favorite band. I've been listening to you guys since 2003. So I thank you for literally creating two of my favorite albums of all time and my single favorite album ever. I want to thank you for being so nice when my band opened for your band. I was in my early 20s, and they say don't meet your heroes because they're just going to disappoint you. But you guys were so nice and so welcoming, and you played my favorite song as the encore, and that sticks with people forever. So thank you for that. And last but not least, I want to thank you for this interview, for sitting down with me for the last 2 hours, answering all my crazy Wintersleep questions that I've been holding on to since 2003. So, Tim, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. It was a blast.
You're very welcome. So, to the Tim Dion fans, the Wintersleep fans, the podcast fans, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you on the next episode. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Who would you like me to feature next for a 2-hour deep dive interview? You can let me know in the comments. You can also send me an email at joelmartinmastery@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me on all social media platforms at joelmartinmastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.